is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, and Jason Eidsmoe. We're talking Padres, Chargers, and Aztec sports.
Gotta hit it to the right place. And he hits it out to center. Right center. Blackman's got a long way to go. He's still going.
Off the wall.
And it is off the wall. It takes a funny hop. Kemp is rounding second. He's heading to third.
Gotta go.
And Matt Kemp into third base with a triple and the first cycle in the history of the San Diego Padres.
He will hand it off. Tomlinson plows his way towards the goal line. LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality. Tomlinson has tied the single-season record. And the handoff to Tomlinson. Left side, and he will gallop into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Pope thought about it. Now steps up. And the freshman hits the jumper at the buzzer.
Well, this kid is some prospect. Big time length, big time game.
Pope straight away three. Count it. Malik Pope. Pope off glass and good. On the other end, Joel doesn't miss that one. Shepard alley-oop to Pope. He got up there. Oh, wow.
It's time to let your voice be heard.
All right, it's Wednesday. It's 7-ish. And it's time for the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for the fans.
By the fans.
That's right. This is Jason Eidsmoe in studio. Joining us, we have Justin Smead. How's it going, Justin?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. Josh Taylor. How's it going? Boss Josh Taylor. How's it going, Josh?
Go Renfro.
Go Renfro. We got a new Padre fan, and we got Mike Maciejewski from Aztecs Hoops Nation. Mikey, how's it going?
It's going great. Glad to be finally back on the show, man.
Yeah, no kidding. It has been a while, and we are hoping to be joined by Jake Hefner from BoltBeat.com. We're still trying to connect with him. Jake the Snake Hefner. For those of you listening live on Spreaker, we appreciate that. You can also find us on iTunes, on TuneIn, on iHeart, and on Stitcher. And we are also part of the New Media Radio Network that is based on the East Coast, and it's a 24-hour podcasting network. Our show is part of their regular rotation, and it is on Thursday from 8 to 10. So we want to invite everybody out there, listen to New Media Radio Network, listen to the podcasts. And if you are listening to our show on there right now, join us on Wednesday nights through Spreaker.com. You can find us, San Diego Sports Junkies. And every Wednesday at 7, every Sunday, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock is the pregame show. I say every Wednesday and every Sunday, and that's what we really strive to do. Really quickly, I want to thank everybody who tweeted me and contacted me. We did lose a member of the family, and so unfortunately, because of the way our podcast runs, I don't know what's going on. Somebody,
Mike is obviously eating.
I'm sorry. I'm trying
to
be serious here.
Unbelievable.
It was like
a bag of Fritos on his desk, and he has to have one.
And Mikey's
cleaning out his
this
garage.
Guy, and now he has to go wash it down with some Ovaltine.
Yes, definitely.
Go ahead, Jason, as you were saying.
Real quickly, I appreciate everybody who contacted me and everybody who let us know. I did lose a member of my family, and it was we had a rough time. Unfortunately, the way the show is, we don't have a big network running this thing for us. So when we miss the show, we can't do the show. And I was out of town spending some time with some family. So I appreciate everybody who sent the well wishes. I am doing fine. It's death is a part of life, and it is a bummer. And so we're all getting through that. But I appreciate everybody who contacted me. Just so you know, I'm doing fine. We're all doing fine, and it is part of it. So. With that being said, we are sorry we missed last Wednesday, or actually we were going to try and do it Monday. I'm really sorry about that. And, of course, I'm sorry about last Sunday not being able to do the pregame show. But we're back, and hopefully we won't be having any of those issues anymore. Lots of stuff happened. Lots of we have a couple games to talk about. The Padres have brought some people up, so we're going to be trying to talk a little bit about Padres too, but of course we need to start out with the Chargers. The one game that we won, we didn't get a chance to talk about. We're not going to really talk about that too much this week. We lost another game. We lost another game that we could have won. We lost another game that we should have won, but we didn't win it. Ultimately, I was talking to Justin before the show started, and I'm going to be honest with you. You guys know I'm positive, Patty. I'm positive about all of this stuff. I wish we won. I wish we were 3-0. I'm not terribly upset about what I see from this team, to be honest with you. I think that they actually look pretty good. Seems like we lose a new key guy every single week. That needs to end, and I think we need to actually discuss what we think are reasons for that stuff happening. But ultimately, where we're at right now, I'm not terribly upset. I think that we have a good team. We got a team that could win some games, and you want to be good at the end of the season, not at the beginning of the season. Josh, state of the team right now after these losses, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think they're in panic mode. It's still early. We're a quarter of the way through the season, right?
Yeah. 3 games in, quarter. No, not yet. 4 games is a quarter of the way. So we still got one more game before this week against the Saints will be a quarter of the way.
The fact that our offense is number 3 in the NFL, with a couple plays here or there, we're 3-0, guys. I mean, I don't think it's time to panic. I know. You look at social media, you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, and people are wanting McCoy to be fired, and they're calling for people's heads, and we've suffered some pretty significant injuries to start this season, and still been extremely competitive, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think that I think we're okay. Do we need to start winning? Absolutely,
yes.
Because and Jason doesn't like to admit this, but with the NFL, I think it stands as a point that these games are a little more crucial than you would have in a 163-game baseball season.
I admit that. I just don't call them must-wins.
you have 16 games that are very important.
Yeah.
And, plus you look at the fact that we're last in the division. Granted, we're only 2 games back, but the Broncos, who we all thought, for the most part, that they weren't going to be where they're at right now. I mean, they're just destroying people each and every week. And this is with a rookie quarterback. And that shows how good their defense is. And their defense is winning games just like they were last year. And if the Chargers want to stay in this thing, they need to start, making those plays to, close these games out. They can't be losing these games in the fourth quarter like they've been.
Agree. Justin, what are your thoughts on the state of the team right now? By the way, Hal did join us in the chat room.
Nice.
He was real quick. His so far he says the team is trash. Justin, what are your thoughts on the state of the team right now?
Well, I definitely don't think it's must-win mode this week. I mean, you can drop a game and go 1-3 and still do okay. It's hard to. The problem is, guys, the next 3 of 4 is division opponents, and while our offense is playing well, our defense is giving up gashing plays, and that's concerning to me. I can't sit here and tell you that I'm confident we're going to beat the Saints. The Saints are a high-powered offense. If we don't show up on defense, we're going to get our asses kicked. So if we don't show up the next few weeks and get this thing righted, we can't have a losing record going into the second quarter of the year. That's just not how it's going to work this year. There's some big games at the back end of the schedule, and if you're not concerned right now, then you're not really being real with yourself as a Charger fan, because if you can't close games in the NFL, this is what the Chargers do, guys. We have been down this road for years. We're preaching to the choir when we tell people about the Chargers and injuries and not closing and finishing. So stick with what works, run the football, air it out when you have to, and win the damn game. If you go 2-2, I feel much more comfortable going into that 3 out of 4 stretch with division opponents than I do going 1-3 and having to play, I think it's the Broncos twice and the Raiders once. So you guys call it how you see it, but I see it differently.
Hal also in the chat room. He's not going to be on for very long. He's on a break, so he just wanted to jump in there and say the team is trash. It looks like Mikey agrees with him. Mikey, what are your thoughts so far on the Chargers this season? State of the Chargers so far, 3 games in.
I mean, honestly, this team is where I thought it was going to be. Again, I told you guys last year. I tried to be even keeled, not get excited. The excitement won me over. This year, I've been very hesitant, and this team is kind of where I thought they'd be at the bottom of the division, and I mean it's really, to me, a mismanagement of the team, a poor execution. I was talking to a friend the other day. He gave me this interesting stat. In games decided by a touchdown or less for the last 13 games, the Chargers are 1-12, I believe.
Wow.
So we here in Aztec Hoops Nation always say coffee's for closers, and man, the Chargers do not like coffee.
No.
No cream either.
No.
Nothing.
I saw an article today. I think it was from Bolt from the Blue. I didn't even read it. I just saw the title of it, and it basically said they miss Norv Turner. And I think it's really funny because back when everybody wanted to fire Norv Turner, my thoughts, and I did say, I wasn't just thinking it, I said, be careful because who knows who's coming next. Now, I still like McCoy. You guys know that. I'm more of a conservative guy when it comes to coaching. I don't like the guys that I like the way he plays. He calls the game.
You're conservative, Connie.
Okay, I'll take that.
Connie,
when it comes to football, not politics. But anyways, I actually like McCoy, and I know a lot of people don't. But here's what I will say: it's really easy and really lazy just to say, fire the coach, fire the coaches, fire everybody. And I know you're frustrated after the game was over, but that's what it was all over Twitter. Fire the coach, fire the coaches, fire everybody. And it's just so easy to shout that out when you look at a team that is so goddamn close right now. We're so damn close to winning. And when it, like I said, I like McCoy, but maybe when it all comes down to it, maybe he's the problem. Maybe he is. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no way that he is the problem. But there's a lot of factors that go into winning a football game. Right. And go ahead, Josh. What do you got?
Well, I just want to add to the statistics that Mikey is so grateful at applying to the show.
Uh-huh.
Under Mike McCoy, we are 5-13 on the road.
Yeah. Our record at home probably isn't much better either, to be honest with you.
Not after a 4-12 season, it's
right. Right. So, but our home record, let's talk about, let's talk about last game real quick. No bigger Philip Rivers fan than me. I know that Hal doesn't like him. And Rivers didn't have that great of a game. Let's be honest here. He didn't throw any interceptions. He hasn't thrown any interceptions this year. He's fumbled it twice. I don't even want to say that those are his fault. I mean, it's not like he was holding the ball there. They just got slapped away, whatever. But he missed Dexter McCluster wide open in the end zone. You can blame that on not working together. The bottom line is he needs to get him the ball. He was wide open. He missed Melvin Gordon on a screen pass where Melvin Gordon would still be running if he caught that ball. He missed multiple crossing patterns where you saw Tyrell Williams and others running across. Travis Benjamin also a bad throw on a crossing pattern where they catch the ball, those guys are still running. He got that 15-yard penalty, which the more you hear about it, the more you think that it was bullshit. But the bottom line is, whether you think it was bullshit or not, he got the penalty, and it cost the team. I got to think that he couldn't have had much worse game without throwing an interception. That was the amazing thing. No interceptions. I don't think he's thrown any all year. But I thought he had a pretty bad game. Mikey, what did you think on his Philip Rivers performance? I know that you're, from what I know, I think you're closer to Hal than any of us on Philip Rivers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that. Again, we've talked about this before. It's the fact that people act like Philip Rivers is beyond reproach. And, I've heard a lot of Verrett hate. He got burned. But a lot of things you just said, Jason, were very true. They're factual. They happened. And we're not holding him accountable for that. And, I think, yeah, like you said, I could have seen him play a worse game. And people complain about the penalty, which really took us from the 5 to, I think, the 20-something.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest. Philip may not curse, but he is a chatter.
Yes.
And as soon as the league came out with that rule, it's like he's gonna get one.
Yep.
I know he's gonna get one for just talking to me. He's habitual line stepper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be a line crosser.
And I will bet you, if you had a mic on everybody, probably everybody else on that field said something worse than he said there. Right. But it does not matter.
Yeah.
He still got called for a penalty. He said something.
Yeah.
Got called for a penalty, and even if he was saying something really polite, this morning. Nick Hardwick was doing an impression of him, and he was talking about him like John with the other guy, but pretending like he was saying really complimentary things to him, like, boy, you're a real good rusher, and just like being real complimentary, but just the way he says it, you look as a ref, all you see is his head bobbing, and he's talking to a guy, you're going to throw a flag, but he needs to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, and like you said, he played terrible, and I like you said, it's crazy he didn't throw an interception, but that Gordon one was huge. There was a lot of plays, I believe that Gordon one was a third down.
That was huge.
That was huge, So inopportune times.
Had Gordon caught that ball, I'm looking out my window right now, he'd just now be running by my house. He'd still be going.
So. I think so, and it just really,
Did Renfro hit another home run, Josh?
Nope, but he's coming up, and there's 2 guys on.
Cisco's in the chat room, by the way. He just joined us, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is Jake Hefner there now?
There was a new formula of Ovaltine, and yeah.
Man, I didn't know if it was me or you, Jake, but it was real tough getting you connected today. So first of all, Jake Hefner, of course, from BoltBeat.com is part of the show now. We appreciate you joining us. We're right in the middle of our conversation on Phillip Rivers right now, and the bottom line is I had said that without throwing an interception, that's the only way Phillip could have had a worse game. He missed a lot of plays that he should have made. He got that 15-yard penalty. He fumbled the ball, which you can blame it on him. I don't really blame it on him, but ultimately he did not really have a good game. What were your overall thoughts of how Phillip Rivers played last week?
Oh, it was a very sloppy game for Phillip Rivers. Aside from everything that you just said, as far as how he played. I mean, there was the 3rd and 1 play where you could have had Melvin Gordon run up the middle. I thought it was a great play call by Whisenhunt, but Phillip just overthrew Melvin Gordon, which would have been 6 in the end zone, and then you had McCluster on the other side. That was virtually almost the same play. It was just 2 feet ahead of him. You just couldn't, really get in a rhythm as far as just having these balls be exactly where they needed to be for everybody else to catch them. So, I mean, it was an off day altogether for Phillip, and it didn't really seem, aside from the one drive that we were able to punch in for an offensive touchdown, that Phillip really got into a rhythm out there and was in sync with everybody. So, it's been actually a while since we've actually seen a game like that from Rivers, to where he hasn't been able to get the pace going at what he needs it to be for something like that. And like you said, if there was an interception thrown, it would have just been, it was the only thing that could have been any worse for the way that he played last Sunday.
And it's funny, is that the second Jake came on, I cut Mike off because Mike was trying to really trash Phillip Rivers, and everybody knows how big of a fan I am of him. So before we go on to Justin and Joshy, you have any other?
No,
I did cut you off. You're right. I was so excited we finally got Jake connected there.
No.
I lost my head.
I was just riling up Hal in the chat room. Cool. We're good.
And it gave Mikey time to eat his dinner, so we're fine.
I'm still eating, so yeah. Get back to me later.
Josh, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on how Phillip Rivers played? Were you disappointed in his play, and do you blame the 15-yard penalty on him?
Well, yeah. I mean, how could you not blame the 15-yard penalty on him? I mean, you're not going to get the penalty unless you say something you're not supposed to. And we know Phillip Rivers doesn't use the terms. He always has his language, but taunting is taunting, no matter how you look at it.
Golly gee willikers, that was a dime.
Yeah, exactly. So
something could happen.
As far as Phillip Rivers' play, I mean, he's due to have a bad game, and we need the defense and other people to pick him up. We can't expect Phillip Rivers to carry this team all the time. And we were talking about going into this game how we need to see more Melvin Gordon. And the fact that we've lost some weapons on the offensive side of the ball, as far as Keenan Allen, we have no Gates. I think more has to be put on Gordon's shoulder to try to shoulder some of this load and take pressure off of Phillip Rivers as he's trying to get in a groove with these wide receivers that he's not as familiar with.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Justin, on how Phillip played?
Well, I just wanted to, real quick, I mean, I'm the biggest Phillip Rivers honk there is on this show, probably. I will defend him till the end. I disagree with Hal on every aspect of his criticism of him. Now, that being said, this last game, I don't put the loss on him, but I put a big part of the loss on Phillip Rivers because
a victory could have been on him.
Well, exactly, yeah. And he's accountable too, and I hold him accountable. But he didn't make the throws. There were throws he complained about. That the Melvin Gordon throw to me bugged me because he was still on the sidelines and like bitching about it. And I don't know if that there was no way.
It is
Melvin
possible
Gordon,
he's complaining about how bad he did, though.
Okay,
like
maybe it
possible.
was, and that's what we couldn't see or hear either. But it almost seemed like he was making Melvin Gordon the scapegoat there in a way, and I didn't appreciate that. So that's what I viewed on TV. But the taunting call, yes, it's still taunting. Yeah. I don't care if you say, "Golly gee whiz, you're a rascal." You're still you're still taunting people, and that the referees don't like that stuff. So I'll defend Phillip for forever, but he didn't have a great game yesterday, and he's not always going to have a great game. We know that.
Yeah, and I agree. And he's yeah, rascal.
Rascal, you.
I've heard around the league. Peter King's written about it a little bit. I've heard that the referees aren't the biggest fans of Phillip Rivers because he kind of he does a lot of John, and for some reason they just don't like that. Yeah. Jake, next subject. Injuries. Each game, that's why we even titled this show, Who Will We Lose Next? Each game we've lost a starter or a very important part of our team for the season. Manti Te'o out now for the year. Keenan Allen out, of course. Danny Woodhead, Stevie Johnson, Cumberland, Brandon Oliver, Jaleel Day. Who knows when he's going to come back. How much more of this are we going to be able to do we have enough bullets left in the gun to still have a successful season, or is this stuff going to start to take its toll?
I think it's already begun to take its toll. I don't think there is that many bullets left in the gun. You can't afford to lose people like this. For most people, when people go down 31 other teams around the league, you get an injury, they're gone for a couple weeks. You can withstand that, but we've talked about how badly it is that if the Chargers sneeze, they're on IR for the entire year. That's just how fragile and snake-bitten they have been over the last couple of years, and none more pertinent than these last couple of weeks, even taking it all the way back throughout training camp. 15 players on IR since the season started. Or I'm sorry, not since the season started, but since training camp opened. That's just astronomical. And whether these players that were big impacts or not, you just have to think, how can one team suffer this many season-ending injuries in that many weeks? And we're only in week 3 here of the regular season. It's remarkable. And we're talking about big-time weapons on both offense and defense. And nobody has had to go through what the Chargers have had to go through when it comes to injuries. Absolutely nobody. I don't care what they say about the Minnesota as far as left tackle and quarterback and running back and what have you. It's just the numbers game is just ridiculous. So I mean, there's not a whole lot left that the Chargers can withstand taking if you're planning on betting anything on this season. Now, that being said, that's where the coaching bridge comes into play, as far as to say, hey, a lot of the younger guys that the Chargers have spent time investing in, they get their opportunity to play and step up. But again, that's why you have the veterans. That's why you have these people that you have. That's why you invested money in these people that you've had. One of them in particular, just got a new contract in the offseason, and he's not even able to play his first or his last year of his rookie deal before he ends up getting this money. It's just it's insane. And to have Keenan Allen go down as he's had for the last 3 to 4 years is unfortunate. And Woodhead, we all know how valuable he is, and Manti Te'o in a contract year, who's never been able to be healthy, but of course he has to be out for the entire year, is just. It hurts because every single one of these guys brings value to the other players around them, especially when it comes to building up the younger guys.
Speaking of the injuries and stuff, and Justin, Manti Te'o now is injured, and the Chargers need to decide what they're going to do with him. We've seen small glimmers of really good play out of him, but we've also seen a lot of injuries. He's been injured more than he's not been injured. Yeah, you're that's the same thing my wife does to me.
Stop.
Nobody else can see.
Go there.
Nobody else can see the video play of what he was doing right there. Anyways, what's your thoughts on? Are the Chargers going to bring him back? Are they going to? They have a real tough decision to make. Do you think they will, and do you think that they should bring him back?
I mean, if you're gonna classify Manti Te'o as a starting captain and a linebacker, and he makes a lot of tackles, he's the guy. I mean, he calls the plays on the defense, and the problem is, I think I heard a stat the other day. Out of his whole 4-year career, it's been 62% or something like that. Egregious, like he just can't stay on the field, guys. And you have a kid like Jatavius Brown that is like almost. And I know he's a little banged up this week, but he's almost like dominant. Like when you get a rookie that is that passionate about playing football and the way he plays and goes about playing football. Now, it's nice to have depth, but I don't see Manti Te'o being a starter next year if Jatavius Brown is on this team. So, and I hate to say that because I like Manti Te'o. I think he's a great person. I just think when you have a guy like that and Denzel Perryman who weed through tackles and make plays to get to the ball carrier, these guys, these are the cornerstone of Charger football in the next few years. I don't know if you bring Manti Te'o back. I would love to have him for depth, but I don't know if you start him, and I don't know if he could handle not starting.
Mikey, we have a couple hamstring injuries right now, but these injuries we're losing people for. Stevie Johnson, ACL, Te'o, Achilles, Keenan Allen, ACL, Woodhead, ACL, Cumberland and Oliver, Achilles. Those are all tendon injuries, and there's a couple different schools of thought on that. Some people, automatically say we need a new training staff. They're doing something wrong there, and other people say you can't build up strength in a tendon. A tendon is a tendon. It's the muscles that you build up strength in, and it's a luck of the draw thing. Do you blame the injuries on something that they're doing wrong on the training staff? Do you blame it on a luck of the draw thing? Maybe the type of players they're bringing in tend to get injured? Or do you say what I say and stop drinking the fucking water in San Diego because it weakens your tendons? What's your thoughts, Mikey, for these injuries?
Well, I mean, if you're part of the, Madden / FIFA / sports world, video game sports world, and then you just buy a new training staff, and then injuries decrease.
Don't pay them too much, though. You'll want to cut into your salary.
Exactly. But, I don't know, man. I think the Chargers need to bring in A.J. Preller to deal with these injuries, start shipping guys off, without letting anybody know they're injured.
Oh, my God. Hide documents. Hide them.
Shred them quick.
Falsify.
No, I don't know, man. I think it's a luck of the draw thing, really. I don't know. Maybe there is. Like you said, it's the muscles. But, you saw Manti Te'o. I think what do you know? These ACL, Achilles, they're non-contact injuries.
Yeah, and they don't even look bad. They're not like hyperextending anything. He just changed direction, for crying out loud.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you see a guy by himself running and then he just looks dead on the floor, it's like, dude, you're like, oh, okay, wow. That's
he looks like anybody playing soccer who's ever gotten bumped.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What is that?
So, I mean, again, I think it's a luck of the draw thing, kind of you do. I mean, maybe it's the players you bring in, but really, I mean, they just kind of happen, and there's not much you can do about them, and you just kind of move on. These players are putting their bodies through rigor. They're playing on turf at times, which is not good for your knees. So it just kind of depends.
Joshy, what's your thoughts on the injuries? What do you blame them on?
I agree with Mikey. I don't think it's necessarily the training staff, to be honest. I think, certain individuals are just genetically built different than others. I truly believe that some people are injury prone and some people are not. And the funny thing is a lot of these are non-contact injuries. Like you were saying, Jason. These guys aren't being bent in the wrong direction. They're not necessarily being hit and their foot being planted. It's just non-contact injuries, and I think it has a lot to do with your genetics. Some may say, which I've heard some arguments be that, as the years go on, bigger, stronger, faster. and the torture that they're putting their bodies through is probably continuing to weaken these tendons and making them more vulnerable to injuries. And I think it's a valid argument.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's the muscles, the tendons aren't growing along with the muscles, and all these players they do so much training for their muscles, their tendons aren't able to handle that increased muscle. I want to read something from Larry Joe in the chat room. He says that third and short pass to Gordon was a bad throw by Rivers, and at that moment he needed to own it. Him at the moment trying to blame Gordon isn't the actions of a leader. It pissed him off because he knew that moment we were about to find a way to lose. Rivers had a bad game, missing throws, and he just needed to take ownership and tell the young guy, my bad. I agree with you, Larry. The only thing I'll say about that is we still don't actually know what he was saying on the sideline, and Justin was upset about the way Rivers was talking and acting. We didn't really hear what he was saying. It is very possible that he was angry at himself, and he was just saying it out loud, I should have made that pass, whatever he was saying. It looks like we might have – hold on, I'm trying to bring the guys back in. Yeah, you guys there? We lost you there for a second.
I'm here, man.
Okay. Looks like it's possible that he was also blaming himself. He doesn't always, we don't know. But I do agree with Larry Joe. If he was over there, and I agree with Justin too, that was Justin as well. If he was complaining about Gordon not catching that pass, that's not really the signs of a leader. I agree with you.
All right.
I think you're the only one in here still now.
Yeah, I think we're the lone duo. Something happened to our call.
We're going to try and bring the other guys in here.
Technical difficulties with Skype, please.
Always happens.
Yeah.
Stupid Skype.
The most professional podcast in America.
The problem is I just don't know how to
it's okay, man.
On the fly, how to change
this
stuff.
Explain yourself. Stuff happens
I'm trying.
During game time here.
Okay, so Mike's having so Mike said it's issues on the internet, so it's issues with them too. So I don't know.
Okay.
So we talked about Phillip Rivers. Let's move on to somebody who we've all been very excited for this year, and who actually looked like he was having a pretty big game, and that's Hunter Henry.
Right.
Hunter Henry looked like he made a couple big catches. He looked like he was starting to get involved. That last catch of the game, I was watching that going, here we go. Now we're moving the ball.
Right.
You couldn't do nothing. There was no anger, right? You just felt bad for the kid, right?
Felt really bad for him. The problem is it's not even a problem. He does everything so well. He blocks well. The coaches are pleased with him. You hear all the interviews and the press conferences. They ask him about Hunter Henry. They love the way this kid plays. And he finally gets a couple beats on a guy and makes a couple plays, and they're going down, driving, and he fumbles. I feel so terrible for him. And you can't help but be pissed off for him because he didn't want to do that, obviously, but he's such a likable guy. He's very humble. He just wants to get better, and you can see him growing as a professional NFL player. He's starting to click with this offense. He's a smart kid, and I really felt terrible for him. And I didn't even get mad. I was like, really? I mean, I'm like, that's going to happen right now.
You just felt sad for him, right?
I did. Why? Looked up in the sky. Why Chargers? Why? That's
right.
It just happens to us. And he's going to make his plays all year while Gates is kind of nursing this injury. So I've been pleased with him.
A couple things in the chat room. Cisco earlier said he thought Brandon Flowers looked horrible. I want to talk about the secondary in a minute. But when he also says he can't be mad at Hunter Henry either. It's tough to be mad at the kid. It's so funny though because we talked about how he's never ever once he touches the ball it never gets away from him. He's never dropped a pass. He's never fumbled all that. And then he did it in the preseason and what are you going to do? We built that up to something where it shouldn't have been. Cisco disagrees. He says, "What do you mean? Not necessarily the training staff. There are a lot of free agents that we've picked up before with hardly any injuries. They sign with us, and all of a sudden they look like twigs out there." I will agree with you in the sense that it does seem like that, Cisco. Now we got to remember we're in our little Chargers bubble, so we notice all the Chargers injuries. I'm sure every fan of every team in there thinks that they have the most injured team in the league. Unfortunately for us, we're the ones that are right, and we're the ones that do. And I don't know if it's a training staff or not, Cisco. I don't. I'm just telling you that tendons to me seem different than muscles, and I think I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. SoCal Trav is in the chat room now, and this is going to surprise everybody, but he wants everybody fired.
Oh my God, he's already on the fire.
He's on the fire, everybody.
Every year about this time.
Cisco brought up Brandon Flowers looked horrible. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the secondary. Not just Brandon Flowers. I'll tell you the only thing that pissed me off about Brandon Flowers was on that fourth down where he just gave them a first down. Like he was playing so soft. The guy basically just took a few steps, caught the ball, and fell forward for a first down. I think he was a little bit worried about getting burnt there. The announcers were talking about Jason Verrett. Now, I understand who's there. I just forgot their wide receiver. Who's the big wide receiver for the Colts?
They have T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton. Okay, T.Y. Hilton, he had a pretty good game, and then he caught that big touchdown.
He had a really good game.
He caught that big touchdown.
Sure.
It didn't look like. I mean, I'm not saying that Verrett didn't shut him down, and Verrett didn't look like a Pro Bowler, but I don't know.
Look, and then there's some thought to that, and then there's a lot of rumors going around that he's not 100% right now, and he didn't look very good Sunday. And I agree with you. He got turned around in some plays, and he kind of looked a fool, man. And he's not. You're not used to seeing that from Jason Verrett. So I can believe if there might be something twinged or he's got something lame going on.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses. If you're going to be out there, you still need to cover the guy. If you don't want to be out there, then take yourself out of the game and let somebody else try it. But if that's true and he wasn't 100% and he still just is a gamer, I respect that. But things happen, and T.Y. Hilton is not a guy you mess with because over the middle of the field, like he did at the latter part of the game, he will elude tacklers and go to the house, and he did. And those are the things you can't have happen, and we haven't seen that all year from him, from Jason Verrett. So you just have to take it with a grain of salt. Now, are we going to get the healthy Jason Verrett next week? You got Brandon Cooks coming to town. You got some really good wide receivers, Willie Snead. You got some guys that can play football here, and this is going forward. This is a concern. These injuries are piling up, and I hope Jason Verrett's just a little twinge here and there, but it sucks to even hear that.
Yeah,
I mean, it really does.
I agree with you. A couple things. David Drugmeyer just joined us in the chat room, and he mentioned how do you blame a trainer for a torn Achilles tendon? And I'm actually on board with that. I was kind of hard on the trainers last year, but it is really tough to just sit there and say it's the trainers and
right. And then what do you put it on? I mean, this is the problem. There's 3 of them this year so far, and are we cursed? Do we have bad luck? Because I'm starting to believe there's something over this team.
Here's what.
It's crazy, to even think that. But we are 3 Achilles in one. Not even until week 4 yet.
Here's why we need backup here. We need a research department, and that's because I'm interested. Keenan Allen we were playing on turf. Kansas City plays on turf, right?
It's
synthetic turf, right?
Sure.
As far as I'm right.
I have no idea.
As far as I know, Keenan Allen, this week, Te'o was playing on turf. Woodhead, that was at home, but that was, you can say he was being tackled at the time. At least he was being tackled when that one happened. Cumberland, I don't remember where we were playing when he injured his Achilles. Brandon Oliver, we were playing against San Francisco, I believe. I don't know if that's on turf or not. I'm just kind of wondering if the turf has something to do with some of these injuries.
Sure.
But what we do is we need a research department to find something out like that for us. Getting back to the secondary. Oh, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's kind of try and regroup here. We're going to try and get the phone line going again. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get you this quick message, and then we will come back. We'll talk about the secondary, what we have to look forward to with Drew Brees coming to town. We'll be right back.
Calling all podcasters. Have you ever wanted your voice to be heard? Do you need help expanding your audience? Are you curious just how far your show could reach? Well, look no further. We are New Media Radio Network, the premier podcast streaming network. Let us take your show to the next level. For more information, check out our website, www.newmediaradio.net.
Cali Comfort Barbecue in Spring Valley was built for West Coast Sunday morning football and fight night. Cali Comfort Barbecue has quickly become San Diego's slow smoke barbecue sports entertainment destination. Full service catering available for all your tailgating needs. CaliComfortSD.com.
All right, we are back. We are still struggling through technical difficulties, but it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have technical difficulties. Of course, when I say we're coming back, Josh is in the middle of a conversation. What did you want to say, Josh, that was so important?
I was going to say, did you guys see that Hunter Renfrow just drilled a double and got two more RBIs?
Nice, your favorite guy. What's the score right now, Padre game?
3-2 Padres.
Nice. Too bad it's too late. I know that Justin wanted them to bring up Hunter Renfrow at the beginning of the season. It would have been nice if they had, huh?
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, they had a chance. Obviously, the Chihuahuas won a PCL title, so that was good for them. And, yeah, so they're good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That means we got a strong. We have a strong AAA club, like we always do.
We'll have a strong AAA club next year until they prove otherwise.
Let's Travis tried to call in. Unfortunately, Trav, when you tried to call in, it's not letting me take your call without hanging up on everybody else. Like I said, the Skype has been so weird. We had to reboot it a few times before the show, so I am sorry. You can try calling again. If it'll let me put you in, I'll put you in. If not, then it's just not going to happen. Secondary. What do we have to look forward to? Because right now, Drew Brees is coming to town, and we know that they can put the ball up. We have Jason Verrett, who is one of our, we're all big fans of Jason Verrett, but he looks like he's a little bit injured, like usual. He's always got something going on. Brandon Flowers knocked himself stupid in the game. I know that Cisco was complaining he didn't look that good. I thought he looked okay, except for that very last, where he let that happen. Trav is trying to call again, but it's not going to let me. It's not going to let me answer it without getting rid of you guys. Sorry, Trav. I think that this is the week. This is going to be the week we might see my boy Craig Mager come in there and get one of his 3 interceptions that he's going to get this year. Justin, what are your thoughts on the secondary going in? Are you worried?
Well, I'm a little concerned. Yeah, of course. I mean, but the front line has to help the secondary too. So getting pressure and all that good stuff. We know. And looky, like this is Joey Bosa's week, right? He's practicing. He's full go. All indications are, if he doesn't, pull in a lower extremity, that's part of a female that I can't say on the air. If he doesn't back out, if he gets a full week of practice in, we might have another pass rusher to help that secondary. So. It's a cohesive unit, and that's what we look forward to. I don't know about the injuries. We'll have to see how Verrett pans out, and Brandon Flowers just didn't have a good game. That's all I can say about that.
What's your thoughts, Josh?
Is Casey Hayward using Stickum because the Chargers just don't intercept the ball that much?
No, I know. What's going on with that?
That guy has been phenomenal the last 2 weeks.
What?
Well, when you come from a winning franchise, that happens.
We need to import more Green Bay Packers then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Aaron Rodgers over here.
I've been pretty happy with what we've seen from him, and I'll be honest with the secondary together. Oh, we might have Jake back with the secondary all together. I've been pretty happy with what I've seen ultimately, but I am a little bit worried. Jake, are you back?
Blaming on the injuries.
Oh man, he's back. We're talking secondary right now. We're happy
with
the
same U.S. Sports Junkies lost an ACL.
Yeah, we're happy with what we've seen with Hayward, but we're a little bit worried with Verrett. He looks like he's limping around a little bit with the Saints coming to town. I was saying before you got back on, this might be the week for my boy Mager to get one of his interceptions.
Oh, crying out loud.
That's what I said. Knock it off, Positive Patty.
What's your thoughts on the secondary this week? Where the state of the secondary, maybe.
Well, the state of the secondary, I mean, specifically, you got to centralize around Jason Verrett. It was horrendous, and it was probably the worst game that we've seen him play since he's been a part of this team. And he took full accountability for it afterwards, and he definitely is probably his biggest critic for as much as pride as he puts on himself as being one of the best cover corners in the league right now. And when you saw him get burned the way he did against T.Y., it's definitely not something that we all expect from a performance from him. So you definitely think that he would be harder on himself this time around to not have a repeat performance like that. But it's Drew Brees. And, if the Saints get Willie Snead back this week, it's only going to make things a little bit more difficult. I think it is going to ultimately come to a point where where Drew Brees is going to have to, if they end up winning, that he's going to have to be the savior for this game. If the Chargers can get out to an early start, you better believe that Brees is going to be slinging the ball around. So Verrett has to be on top of his game this week in order to have a bounce-back performance against one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
One of the things that when Justin and I had our intimate time when you guys were all gone, it was just him and I talking.
Intimate time.
One of the things that
candlelight and
oh yeah, it was great.
Candlelight and wine, eh?
I dimmed the lights. It was great. It was a nice little romantic
The most
time.
professional podcast.
I'm glad I'm the only one having a beverage tonight. Unbelievable.
So it went from the San Diego Sports Junkies to Love Hour with Josh and Jason.
With Justin and Jason. No, we cut Josh out too. Josh
there's a lot of J's up in here.
Josh kept trying to join, but we wouldn't let him in. We were talking.
I feel for you, Josh. It's all right.
That's all right. I was speaking to the real man, Jake Hefner.
We were talking about Hunter Henry and your thoughts. When Hunter Henry fumbled the ball and the game was over, were you pissed or did you just feel bad for him?
Honestly, I heard your voice in my head, Jason, just saying sources. That's why Hunter Henry fumbled the ball at the end of the game.
I didn't even want to say that to you.
No, I figured it was going to come up at some point or another, so I might as well just get it out of the way. No, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's it was just unfortunate. I mean, again, it shouldn't have even gotten to that point where anybody has to blame Hunter Henry for that fumble. The game should have never gotten to that point where you're relying on the Chargers to come back, all the way down and score a touchdown to win the game. And again, ultimately, everybody was wondering, was that blocked extra point going to come back and be a factor? And technically, it wasn't because of the Hunter Henry fumble, but you were put in a situation where you had to score 6 instead of being able to tie it at 3.
Right.
And that's just the way it went. So I don't blame Hunter Henry for the loss again. It's the Chargers just came out flat the entire game. Shouldn't have even been in that position. So I can't put too much blame on him when it came to a situation like that.
Yeah, SoCal Trav, he's been trying to call. We can't get the call to come through though, unfortunately. But he's in the chat room. He's actually pissed off at Henry. He said you got to hold on to the rock at that point. And one of the things that Justin and I talked about was we spent so much time building this guy up into a god who you can't get the football from once the football touches him, and something like that was bound to happen. So it was kind of a bummer. Joey Bosa gets talked about a lot. I know Justin talked about him a little bit before. I still think he's not going to play. I think that he's not going to play this week.
You're on crack.
Justin thinks he is.
He's going to play.
Josh,
99
Josh,
will be out there.
Is Joey Bosa going to play this week? Before we get to Jake, let's go around. I say no. Justin says yes. Josh says
yes.
Joey Bosa's playing. Jake says
I say yes.
Oh, what a surprise. Everybody ganging up on Jason.
Well, you do like gangbangs.
No, I like intimate time with Justin.
Well, I don't, so knock it off.
A very special San Diego Sports Junkies podcast.
Welcome to the show.
The thing that worries me when you hear about hamstrings is especially, Bosa, of course, he was so excited to get in here and prove that he deserved the money that he was asking for. He probably overdid it, trying to get into camp now we're going to get him in his first game. If there's even a little twinge on that hamstring, I'm worried about him tearing something and going out for the year. I'd rather they sit him down for the end of the season when we get hot, because I do believe we're going to get hot. I believe that every year. I just think that they should hold him out, and I'm not comparing him to J.J. Watt, so don't anybody scream that I think he's as good as J.J. Watt. Of course I don't, but when you're talking about injuries, J.J. Watt hurt his back. I know it's a different type of injury, but he came back too early, tried too hard, and look it, he might be out for the whole year. That's my concern with that.
At what point last year, Jason, did we get hot?
What point did we get hot last year?
Yeah,
no, we didn't. No, I thought we would.
Out of the 4 win.
No. I didn't say we did, and I wasn't claiming to be right. I'm just saying I thought we were going to.
Okay, gotcha. No, I apologize.
I think we're going to every year, and every year I think it a little bit more than I thought that the last year. This year I really think that we're going to get hot.
Okay.
So a couple other subjects that I wanted to talk about. King Dunlap, he was late onto the injury list, and then he ended up not playing at all. They say it's migraines, not related to a concussion. I do believe that we missed him. And you know what? After we talk about King Dunlap, I want to talk about the running game. I forgot I wanted to talk about that. But King Dunlap out with the migraines. First of all, of course it's a head issue, so should we be worried about that? But King Dunlap, are we going to be missing him for a long stretch this year, or do you think that was a one-game thing? I know he's still kind of out right now. What do you think, Justin?
You got to be concerned. His migraines, it's kind of like the whole Ladarius Green thing. It's. I mean, I know he's had previous concussions. I think King has had them too, and it's not related to this point. I don't know the whole thing, but that's concerning. It's very concerning. This is not what we need, guys. This is a barrage of injury. Like, this is ridiculous. There's no words for it. There's no explanation.
ACLs and concussions in San Diego.
Well, it's just any injury with a medical cross emblem. It's just. What do you do but shrug your shoulders and go, well, this is what we do every year? I mean, it sucks.
The Chargers have specifically said it's not concussion related. SoCal Trav in the chat room says migraines are related to concussions. Let's get the straight dope here from Jake. Do you think, or have you heard, is this concussion related, and how long are we going to be missing King?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we haven't heard anything about King Dunlap being in concussion protocol this year. It was so strange for the fact that the injury pattern, the practice pattern for him was somewhat similar to what it was today. He didn't practice last Wednesday. He was able to put in practice last Thursday. He had a full practice last Friday, and then just out of nowhere ended up not playing on Sunday. So tomorrow's going to be a big telling sign whether or not he's going to be available for us this Sunday against the Saints. You just hope that it's nothing that's going to be lingering for a long period of time. If it is true that it is migraines, unrelated to concussions, migraines in the football type of world where you're banging heads with everybody else, that's not going to make anything any better when you're having a bad case of those. And just any regular person that has them on a daily basis knows how much they suck. So, I mean, adding on that little piece to it definitely does not help matters. But, I guess we could just cross our fingers and hope that he's able to put in some type of practice tomorrow and on Friday. So that would ultimately, hopefully not lead to a last minute, deactivation for him for the same type of reasons on Sunday.
Yeah. And, you mentioned anybody who's had them knows how bad they suck. I never had a migraine before. And I have a feeling that a lot of people who think they've had migraines really haven't had migraines. I think people who have had them before, know what they are. I think a lot of people who get headaches just say, oh, I got a migraine. I don't think they know what it is. I don't know what it's like to have a migraine because I've never had one. But I can imagine that the last thing you want to do is be racking your head into some 300-pound lineman. Justin, you were raising your hand.
I'm agreeing because I've had them when I was a kid, and luckily in my later age, I haven't had them that many times. But they were a problem when I was a kid. And
I hear they're just absolutely brutal.
Well, I had to use nose spray and a certain medication. Like you're sensitive to light, to sound. It's the worst pain you've ever experienced, and that's what they determined I had. And I didn't have it for a long time. They said it can come and go, but it's bad.
What do you got, Judge? SoCal Travis had them too. He says they suck, and it's like taking a sledgehammer to your head. Josh, what were you going to say?
My wife gets them on a regular basis, and they're debilitating. I mean, she has to go in a dark room and put a pillow over her head, and it's just to the point where she wants to throw up. It's nauseating. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like Jake said, it's not something that you're going to want to go out there and pound heads against somebody else in the trenches.
Yeah.
If he's got migraines, it's serious. It's just as serious as a concussion when it comes to helmet-to-helmet contact.
Yeah. The running game. We're going to backtrack a little bit to the running game. One of the things that I was thinking about is once we took the lead, I said, we need to start running the ball. We need to salt this game away and start running the ball. To Whisenhunt's credit, I think he was trying to run the ball still. I think we still tried to run the ball. We just weren't successful at it. He was trying to run out of the shotgun. He was not just running out of the shotgun, though. They were lining up with Rivers under center. They lined up in the I formation. They were lining up with extra tight ends. Everything they were trying to do in the second half just didn't seem to really, the running game really never seemed to get going. But I don't really see them abandoning the run game. I know a lot of people like to complain about that. I don't think that we abandoned it. I think that they tried, and this is the positive Patty in me coming out again. Even the runs that weren't successful, at least he was getting back to the line. Last year, it seemed like half the team was in the backfield the second he got the ball. They weren't opening holes still, and he wasn't able to get a whole lot of yards. But I'm seeing everything half full, and Justin, you're shaking your head.
No.
Do you agree with any of the thing I said there?
Well,
do you think that at least they kept trying to run the ball?
You said they tried to run the ball, and yeah, maybe, but not really.
You thought they gave up on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I do. I really believe that, and
Okay.
it has to be an attitude. I mean, we've seen it how it works, right? I mean, this line can move men. It can move them off the line, and we can get some push. So we're accustomed to seeing Melvin Gordon this year. I'm going to phrase that this year that he's been successful. Let him do his thing in the power formation, I formation, whatever you want to call it. Get in rhythm, and I know early on in the game he had success. Continue to do that the entire game. I feel like sometimes they just get away to get away.
Okay.
And like, you know what I mean? Like, just keep being consistent, especially when Phillip Rivers is struggling.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Jake now, and we're going to listen to him agree with you because I always have a different perspective. But Jake, what do you think about the run game? Do you think they got away from the run game, or do you think that it just wasn't working? What are your thoughts? Are you on Team Justin or Team Jason?
I'm on. It's funny. I have to agree with certain aspects of both of you guys because, while the running game wasn't working, in certain aspects, I always think that you still have to try and establish a run game to keep the defense honest. But, if you noticed, I think this was where the impact of King Dunlap's absence comes into play. I believe that they only ran it to Chris Harrison's side once, that Melvin Gordon was actually successful. So, again, it really showed you how much faith that the coaching had in the running game at that point, what it limited them to. But, again, through certain factors, I liked the aspect of Phillip coming out for every once in a while. There was a series, I think either the second or the last series that the Chargers had where Phillip came out and it was a long bomb down to Travis Benjamin that he tried to get. Unfortunately, it went out of bounds, but that was a difference that you needed to do in order to get away from being predictable, as the Chargers had can definitely become on first down to where you run the ball. So I think that there are some advantages with both, but of course, for as many times as Melvin Gordon ended up toting the rock in this game and what he was able to produce out of it, it just it definitely wasn't the results that you wanted to see, and it should have been better.
I think it should have been better results, and I do think that we really did miss King Dunlap. I think that Chris Harrison, I like having him on the team for the versatility factor, and not very many teams have starting quality offensive linemen as their second string offensive linemen, and that's the same with us. Chris Harrison is versatile. He can play a lot of positions, but he's not great. Let's be honest. He's not great. You like his attitude. You like how much he tries. But ultimately, King Dunlap is far superior to him. He just is. And I think that we saw that. I think that we saw that last week. And I hope that I hope that King Dunlap comes back. Cisco in the chat room now, we're getting a lot of complaints about the play calling. Cisco says he questions the play calling of Whisenhunt. He looked like McCoy towards the end. And SoCal Trav says, how about let Whisenhunt do his thing? Conservative McCoy needs to shut up. We've talked about this before. I think that Whisenhunt's the guy calling the game. I think that him and McCoy put together the game plan. I don't think that McCoy's whispering in his ear what he needs to call. But let's talk about this again. Jake, is the call of the plays Whisenhunt's, or is McCoy kind of saying, hey, you need to do this time, you need to do that this time? What's happening there on the sideline?
Mike McCoy has always said since he became head coach that he doesn't put any influence on what the offense or the defensive coordinators, as far as their play calling goes. Now, that being said, what was it, 5 times where the Chargers had stopped the Colts defensively? I know I'm flipping it around to the defense, but 5 times that the Chargers had stopped them, the drives ended up extending because of stupid penalties that ultimately gave them first downs. So, again, you factor that into it to say, well, is it so much? I mean, we can't totally take away the defensive blame here for the lack of discipline that was on those type of plays, because 22% on third down that ultimately the Colts were able to convert. I mean, that's a defensive success, but you still made stupid penalties in order to keep those drives alive, and those were really big time backbreakers. So again, when you talk about the conservative play calling, yes, was it in there from time to time? Absolutely. But defensively, both sides of the ball, extremely sloppy game. I think it's definitely out of the last 3 games that the Chargers have played, it's been the most horrendous on every aspect of the game.
Another thing that I've noticed is when we play against like Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, quarterbacks like that. I can't believe I just lost his name in Green Bay. God damn.
Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you. How could I forget that? Aaron Rodgers. They are always able to make our defensive line jump. They are always able to get them to jump off sides and get those first downs. And I think that, I don't know what you do to stop stuff like that. And maybe, like I said, I am in my Chargers bubble. Maybe that happens to every team that plays against them, not just the Chargers. I just noticed that when we play I wish you guys could see the video right now of these 2 clowns. Anyways.
The most professional.
Yes, sir.
We got to turn this into a video cast just so people could see
We're going to.
Josh running around,
we have it in the works.
Doing weird, dirty stuff with stuffed animals and all sorts of stuff. Anyways, moving.
That was 2 years ago, Jason. Move on.
Moving on. I'll never move. I can never get that.
He's past that fetish now.
That's burned in my brain. Moving on.
Talk
like we like to do. We bounce around a lot. Drew Kaiser. I was so high on him during the preseason. I loved the draft pick. I thought that it was time to move on because we had some injury issues with Cyphers, which I loved. I was such a huge fan. He taught us how a punter can actually be a weapon. But I did think it was time to move on. I thought they pulled the plug at the exact right time for that. Loved what I saw with him in the preseason. Boy, has he been shaky this year. Absolutely shaky. I've not really liked anything that I've seen from him so far. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm not saying we need to bring in a new punter. I just think that we need to see some improvement out of him. Justin, what are your thoughts on Kaiser so far?
Did you mean shaky or shanky?
Yes.
Because he's been shanky to me. He's not been at his best, but maybe that's just nerves. Who knows? He does come from, I think he comes from the SEC, right? He comes from Texas A&M. That's the SEC.
Yeah,
that's the SEC. So, hey, this is part of it. He's going to learn. He's going to grow. He has a booming leg. I don't see why.
He's going to get better, right?
Yeah. I have a lot of confidence that he'll get better. So, for me, I'm not going to be too worried about it. And those are the kinds of things we have to look forward to. He's going to go through rough patches. Not everybody can be Mike Cyphers on the first day. That's it. Drew Kaiser will be just fine.
Cyphers also got to play a whole year without, he got to stay on the team a whole year before we expected him to play. So he did have that advantage. Josh, is Kaiser going to get better? He just showed me a highlight, by the way, Hunter Renfrow hitting a home run. Thanks, Josh. Is Kaiser going to get better, or do we have? Is that what we're going to get out of him?
Obviously he has room for improvement. Let's be honest there. He's young.
There you go. Thanks. The most professional.
Thanks, Captain.
Oh my God, Captain.
Let's be honest. He's young, and I think one of the hardest positions to replace, especially a Pro Bowler like we had at punter, or somebody kicking field goals. I think those are the two hardest positions to get somebody that's long term. You don't see the Jankowskis sticking around for 40 years in the NFL. I think you have to give him his opportunity to try to turn it around, but I think you got to keep that leash a little short also, in my opinion.
Wow. Jake, what's your thoughts so far on Drew Kaiser?
See, this is where, as fans, we always have just a spoiled perspective, and we, especially with some of the things that you saw from Kaiser in the preseason, we just want instant gratification from all these guys, and we don't think that there's going to be any hiccups. When just in reality, there will be, and it's going to be a learning curve one way or another. I don't care what position it is that you're talking about. So we really just have to learn to be patient with it. Hey, did he look as bad as he did against Week 1 against Kansas City? No, absolutely not. But again, each week he's going to grow. He's going to get better. You see the type of potential that he has, and we just have to learn to be patient with it. But he's going to come along. He's going to be just fine. God bless you, by the way. I heard that all the way over here.
Jason had to blow his elephant trunk.
Oh, so we heard it, but it's not on the air. You have the cough mic. I get it. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
That was just a sound effect. Okay, I got it.
That was just you guys.
Someone get that on tape.
I tried to get so far away. Nobody heard that, though. That's so funny.
We're doing a live remote.
You guys reacted to something that nobody else heard. That's awesome. Okay.
Here
Sorry
we are,
about
the Sportscast by the Elephants.
Your Drew Kaiser talk, but
the most professional podcast.
See, this is anybody who misses. This is what you missed last week. When we miss shows, you miss stuff like this, and it's so much fun. I agree with you on the instant gratification, and we're spoiled. And if I'm going to relate it, let's relate it to the Padres and their closer. We have had good closers up until this year, forever, and you have fans of other teams that look at us and go, you guys are so spoiled. You guys have always had good, strong closers, and it's the same thing with us. We went from one really, really, Darren Bennett to Mike Cyphers. We've always had a good, strong punter, and there is going to be a learning curve, and I think that we need to have a little bit of patience. And Kaiser kind of messed up in the sense by having such a great preseason, and we didn't, it made us think that that's not going to be an issue. When you're a rookie in this league, it's tough to transition. So I agree with you, Jake. I think that we're spoiled, and we do need that instant gratification. So I think that we need to give him more time. I would like to see a little bit of improvement over him, though. These 39-yard punts are getting a little bit old. We need to get a little bit.
39 yards. That sucks.
Let me tell you, I might be able to punt the ball 39 yards.
His average needs to be much higher than Jason's age.
That's a good call. It should be more than my age.
You should just throw it, not kick it.
Anybody else notice that Fluker and Pulley seemed to be rotating last week? And I didn't hear. I know I did see Fluker limping around a little bit in the game. I think that was just something that happened on that one play, though. Is this a performance thing, or is this injury thing, or did anybody else notice that? I know you did, Jake. I'll let the other guys talk first if anybody else noticed it or had anything to say about it. Justin or Josh, either one of you notice it or?
Well, I noticed it. I'm out of words for this offensive line right now. Like I don't know what's going on, and I don't. And maybe Jay can clear it up. But
yeah.
I seen the switch too, and it bugs me. It bugs me a lot. I don't. Maybe it's performance based. I couldn't tell you. Maybe certain packages as they're rotating.
Yeah.
It just is really concerning to me. This is if we couldn't stand all these other injuries, and then you add King and you're doing the line switch, it's getting out of control now. It really is. I mean, dings here and there, but are they doing it because of injury, or are they doing it because they don't like Fluker as much? I don't. What's
or
the
maybe
deal?
they just want a guy they think that their ability is so close that why not have a fresher guy in there? Jake, enlighten us here.
I wish I had an answer with some relevance.
You noticed it, though,
honestly.
right?
Yeah, I did notice it. I didn't know if Fluker was injured. I didn't hear anything about it. Obviously, there was nothing on the injury report today as far as him not practicing. And it's not the first time that it's happened. So I mean, it's not like it's not that it's uncharacteristic of Fluker to come out in certain games where he might get dinged up and he'll go right back in.
Right.
But again, you think you've seen everything with this offensive line, and that's not the case. And we sit back here and we wonder, well, why did we have such a terrible running game this last week in Indianapolis? And that's exactly it. I mean, it's that coupled with the King Dunlap, not having him there at the last minute, those are going to cause some of those riffles. And that's just the unfortunate part about our offensive line, that we just say that we can't afford any injuries or anybody out, because once one person gets changed along that front five, for some reason it just happens to have a damning effect on the other four individuals as far as the continuity goes. We talk about it every single time that we bring up the offensive line about how important that those front five guys are, and that when there is a substitution, the running game, it could very well struggle, and most of the time it does, unfortunately.
We got a tweet earlier today. I'm going to try and find it here. It was from Hal, and it was about Antonio Gates. He was injured last week. We didn't get to see him play. He hasn't really been part of the offense. And I'll let you guys talk about Antonio Gates a little bit, or what your thoughts are, before I go to the actual question or the actual tweet, because I got to find it here. But Justin is the injury aside, people get injured. He's got the hamstring. Is Antonio Gates, has he really fallen off that much, or has he just not been able to get part of the offense yet because sitting out all of training camp and everything?
Well, I mean, going into the year, obviously Gates he's not in his prime anymore. Obviously, we know that. But going into the year with all the weapons we had, I didn't figure him to be a crazy part of the offense. I mean, red zone, yes, of course. Over the middle for 5-6 yards, because he can use that big frame to get a couple catches. I wasn't looking. I was looking for a big mix with him and Hunter Henry this year, and I really believe that. Now him going down with injury, obviously, doesn't help his cause and his case. But I don't think he's just too much. He's as far as being a threat on the field, he's always going to have that threat ability. Everybody's defense is going to be swarming to Gates, and they're gonna look for him, because that's Phillip Rivers' blanket. I mean, that's it. Problem is, he's not as productive as he used to be, and they realize that. And like I said, you got a kid in Hunter Henry now that is well equipped to handle a bigger load. So,
one thing Darren said last year was when he saw Gates have a big season, he always goes, whenever Gates, he looks fat and he looks slow, but he just gets open and he catches the ball. Josh, what are your thoughts on Gates? Do you think that he? I'll actually ask the question. I found it here. It's from Hal, and it says, has Gates been more of a burden than an asset to the team the last 3 or 4 years? Now, I don't think it's fair to go back that far, because you go back a few 3 or 4 years and Gates was just dominant. So let's just say the last 1 to 2 years. Do you think he's been an asset or a burden to the team?
It's tough, because we all love Gates, and he's a Hall of Famer. He's done a lot for this team, but at the same time, he missed 4 games with the suspension at the beginning of last year. Statistically, he wasn't as good last year. Maybe that's because he missed out on those 4 games. And he's been hampered with injuries. Even on the games he started, he hasn't played through the whole game because he's been, got a nagging foot injury or a hamstring injury or whatnot, and it hasn't been able to keep him on the field. And that's the problem with this Chargers period, is we can't keep our top players on the field. So I would have to lean towards him being a little more of a hazard than something that is obviously beneficial to this roster.
I can't believe that anybody would even say that. I don't think he's been a burden. I definitely don't think he's been the player he was a few years ago. An actual burden, though, I don't think so. And I still think he's got a lot of game left in him, and we're going to see that this year. Jake?
He's still a threat on the field, guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jake, has he been more of a burden than a help to this team?
I wish I had some holy water to just yell blasphemous and throw it in Josh's face because of that comment.
You can.
There's no reason that you can say that Antonio Gates has been a burden to this team. Now, people want to go back 3 or 4 years to say that he's hampered this team in some way. I disagree, because if you think of what the organization did as far as its moves go, let's not forget that Ladarius Green was perceived to be the ultimate heir apparent to Antonio Gates. And of course, you just had another tight end that was riddled with injuries. So it's not that to say that the organization wasn't thinking about the possible future after Antonio Gates was gone. And now, of course, with all the problems that Ladarius Green is having, now that he's even in Pittsburgh, it seems that those problems were just not related to just being in San Diego.
Right.
It's been a chronic problem for him. But how can you say for a guy in developing Ladarius Green, and now you bring in Hunter Henry this year as a rookie, how can anybody say that despite the impact that Antonio Gates has on the field, we all know what it is as far as having that extra attention drawn to him defensively, but having it be as a mentor to a younger heir apparent player that is ultimately going to take his spot on the roster, that to me is a benefit 100 times over. I mean, who wouldn't appreciate learning from one of the best tight ends in the game? Even if he's not out there all the time, he's still in some form or fashion being able to make an impact on this team. So I have never seen Antonio Gates, even when he's not being able to contribute on the field, as a burden to this team. Absolutely not.
Thank you, Jake. I agree with you completely. Larry Joe in the chat room, thanks for joining us. He says, we're going to go back to DJ Fluker here. He says, Fluker is just a mammoth of a man. When he goes down to the ground, it takes a lot of strength and energy for him to get himself up off the ground. He just needs to go out a couple of plays here and there to catch his breath. Now, I'm not quite sure it's so hard for him to get back up, but I'm wondering if maybe it is a stamina thing with him. You know, he does one thing that nobody will disagree is Fluker will give you 100% on every single play. Not always successful, but you're going to get everything from him. And if Spencer Pulley is ability-wise very close to him, why not just rotate? I know you like the continuity. I know that that's a big thing, but why not rotate those guys back and forth, so you can always have a guy that's real fresh out there, especially since Fluker's going so hard, he might be wearing himself down. Anything to that, Justin, or you think you need to keep the same guy in all game?
Well, just keep him in the same game. Like, keep the continuity up. Keep the continuity up. Don't. I truly believe that. Don't pull guys in and out, even for different packages. I hate that because you think something's wrong.
Okay.
Like I do. You always figure there's an issue.
What do you think?
What I'm saying?
What do you think, Jake, about what Larry Joe said about him just needing a breather?
I'm going to take a different route here. I'm going to say if there is, for some reason, I don't believe that there is, of course, but if for some reason it is factored into DJ Fluker's conditioning, find Karan Reed on your roster, find Karan Reed, and learn cardio from that man, because that dude has got the wheel to run 90 yards down the field as fast as he did.
Like Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
Let's try him at running back.
God.
I don't know. I just think that rotating the guys in isn't such a bad idea. I think that there is something to continuity. I understand that, but when have we played with continuity the last 3 years? We just never do. We always got somebody out.
That's not in our vocabulary.
Yeah, exactly. We always got somebody out.
Exactly.
So I'm not either that or maybe Fluker needs to learn maybe you need to be effective and you need to do your job, but maybe you can give 80% on one play and still get that done and not kill yourself, not wear yourself down. Now, trying to think where I was going to go next. Another thing that SoCal Trav brought up in the chat room, and I don't know if he meant Lambo or not. He said Lambo is a bust. We need to move on from Lambo. Now, of course, Lambo missed that 54-yard field goal, and he did miss the extra point, which as much as that's another thing that we need to talk about. As much as the announcers made such a big deal out of that, it wasn't a big deal. That extra point ended up not factoring into anything.
Right.
And they tried to make it look like it did at the end. But I've actually liked what I've seen from him on kickoffs. I know at the beginning of some games there's been some short kickoffs. I think those were designed. And then I think they just are telling him, hey, we're not able to make the tackles. Just blast it through the end zone. And that's what he's been doing. And I've been fine with that. Anybody else unhappy with Lambo? I've been happy with Lambo, to be honest with you. You can't make every field goal. Justin, what's your thoughts on Lambo?
I love Lamborghinis.
No problem.
Mean, this guy can handle his business. He missed a couple, but that happens. You're a kicker.
Everybody misses field goals.
Not everybody's going to be the number one rated kicker like Nate Kading was in the regular season. It's not going to happen. Right. You can't compare yourself to those kind of people. Josh Lambo has a leg, and I'm very confident in him until he starts missing kicks. If we ever get to the playoffs in big time situations or game winning field goals, we can't really judge him too hard. I mean, this is how it is, man. This is how it is.
I don't think he misses too many. Josh Lambo, you happy, or you think we need to look somewhere else and get rid of him?
No, I'm perfectly fine with Lambo. I don't have a problem with him at all. You're going to miss some field goals. You're going to miss some extra points. Look at the NFL. I mean, we out here in Arizona with DirecTV or Dish Network aren't fortunate enough to be able to watch enough football games, but we have Red Zone, and they show all the scoring plays, and there is a lot of missed field goals.
Yeah.
A lot of missed extra points. I don't think Lambo is a problem at all. He's got a hell of a leg. And he's pretty damn accurate, in my opinion.
Yeah, SoCal Trav's doubling down, saying he misses too many. Jake, Lambo missed too many field goals and extra points?
Missed too many. Did you see Cleveland's kicker this last week?
Yeah, did he miss like 3?
I'm telling you.
Wow.
Other kickers in the NFL.
I mean, it's fortunate that I mean, unfortunately, he's going to be finding the couch this next Sunday after a performance like that. But I'll tell you this, I'll take Lambo any day over a performance like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're lucky that we were able to once again move from a pretty good kicker to another pretty good kicker, and I've liked what I've seen from him on the kickoffs this year. I think that he took maybe I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did, but it looks like he's got a little bit more strength, and his kickoffs are going a lot deeper. You guys like his quickly before we move on? Kickoffs? Or you guys have any problem with the way he's kicking them off the ball, Justin?
Not at all.
Josh,
and I like what you said because some of those are designed. I think they want them to return the football because they feel like their special teams can get down the field and make a play.
Josh, no problems with the kickoffs, right?
No, not at all.
And Jake, you've been pretty happy with the way he's been kicking the ball off?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Hey, everybody agrees with me. Awesome.
Don't steal my words, Jake.
Absolutely.
Here's Larry Joe in the chat room weighing in. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it right now. At first, I liked Lambo. Then I saw him this Sunday without his helmet. And then I got to look at him rocking that mustache on his face, and that had me a bit confused for a moment. Then I started digging it. Lambo stays. Oh, that's awesome, Larry Joe. Love that. Dexter McCoyle. I was one of the guys that was real high on him in the preseason. Jaleel Adai, went like we expect to see him do with reckless abandon. Knock himself silly and broke his shoulder. Dexter McCoyle's getting a little bit more time. Not super impressed with him, to be honest with you, so far in the season. And maybe it's it is a little bit of a tougher transition. The regular season is not the preseason. What are your thoughts on Dexter McCoyle so far and throughout the season? Do you think we're going to see some improvement from him, Justin?
Well, I mean, you got to realize he's young still, and he's still adapting to the NFL. I totally agree with you. It's not the preseason, and you can't make plays like that, or you can't miss plays. But we can all agree the secondary wasn't that great last week, and it's what have you done for me lately type of league, right? So
right.
if you're basing it off of 1 week and cumulatively the secondary did not play well, you're gonna have criticisms. But I've liked the past games. I've liked what he's done to add depth to almost like a linebacker role in the box for running plays. So in certain packages. So I have liked him. Maybe he didn't have I wasn't focused on him on the game last week. I was focused on other players, but I've liked what I've seen from Dexter McCoyle, and I think he's got a ton of potential still.
Jake, Dexter McCoyle, thumbs up, thumbs down, or what are your thoughts so far?
Again, it's hard to grade off of 1 week when a guy is thrust in from, a player above him who, in all honesty, did something very, very unintelligent that was unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah. In a game
for
the
the fact that Hayward had basically made that ball incomplete and Adai had to jump in there for that hit that wouldn't have made a difference to the play anyways, and he breaks his collarbone and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. So again, that's affecting your depth, and of course, having Jaleel Adai out there would definitely, I'm sure, would have helped to be that type of enforcing safety that he is out there. But at the same time, Justin said it best. You can't have any flawless change when injuries like this happen. It's just not going to be the same type of product that we're so used to. And for a guy who's from the CFL and yes, had a great preseason, but let's not forget, majority of those times that he really looked good, he was going up against the number 2s and the number 3s of those opposing teams. So we have to temper expectations. We have to learn to be patient with these guys when they come in, from this type of a situation in the specific case of Dexter McCoyle, from the fact that he was a CFL standout, his first taste of the NFL. But I love the potential that this kid has. You just give him, obviously the best thing that could happen for him is that he gets these next 4 to 6 weeks of playing time and opportunity in real action with the number 1s. And eventually that's going to help his game down the line, and he's only going to get better and benefit because of it.
I agree. Now, and I'm hoping we're going to see more of him because I really, really liked what I saw from him in the preseason. I think that he can be a good part of this defense, and like SoCal Travis says, he's more like a hybrid player. So maybe not necessarily starting at safety for Adai. Now, when Manti Te'o went out, when he was running and somebody sniped him from the stands and he went down. The things that I look for is I immediately after that started going, who's got that green dot on the back of his helmet? And it was Denzel Perryman is the guy who got it after that. I know they also voted Melvin Ingram as a defensive captain now to kind of take his place. Denzel Perryman, it's his second year in the league. He's still really, really young. Who's the new leader on defense? Obviously it was Te'o. Somebody else is going to have to step forward. Perryman looks like he's got that green dot. They usually give that to a middle linebacker. Who's taken over as the leader on this defense, Justin?
Yeah, it has to be Denzel. And if you've heard anything, you go to Chargers.com, you can listen to Denzel being mic'd up the whole game. And when Te'o went out, they sat next to each other, and you guys can see it for yourselves. Te'o was pretty emotional, telling Perryman, "This is your team now. This is your defense. Ride or die, dude. This team's going to follow you. You're going to call the plays." I think Denzel is suited for it. I know he doesn't have the experience Te'o does going into his 4th year. He knows the system very well, and he's been making the calls for a while now. But Perryman, I think coming from the U, he's got good pedigree. I think he's ready for this. I think he needs to just study up some more. Take advice from the guys that are inside that locker room and really be boisterous, because I know Perriman's an emotional player and he can be that guy to spark us, especially with a kid like Jatavius Brown going to be sitting right next to him.
Yeah.
These two are super athletic, and I love the pairing. So going forward, I think this could be a good thing for us, and I know it's terrible that Te'o went out, but I think Perriman's got the job.
Josh, who's the new leader on our defense now that Te'o's gone? You agree with him?
I agree with Justin. I think the middle linebacker on pretty much most defenses is that leader. But at the same token, maybe the Chargers think something else, and that's why they gave Melvin Ingram the defensive captain nod. He's one of the more senior guys on that defensive side of the ball, and probably the most knowledgeable on that side of the ball. And I personally think Melvin Ingram needs to take some of that away from Perryman, just so Perryman can be Perryman and not have to worry about so much about calling, defensive plays in or trying to make adjustments. I think Perryman just needs to focus on ripping people's helmets off.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before we go to Jake, I think Perryman's the right choice to have that green dot. He is the middle linebacker, and I think he can handle it. But I actually think a new guy needs to step forward as the leader. You don't have to necessarily have that green dot to be leading out there. And to me, I think the guy that's got to really step forward, and the guy I'm hoping to see step forward, is Dwight Lowry. I think that he has.
Yeah, I was disappointed in that. Dude, I thought Mebane too.
Yeah, well, Mebane's not out there enough, though. He's rotating in. I think Dwight Lowry needs to really become a leader out there. And I'm not saying put the green dot on his helmet, but I'm saying that he needs to really step up and be the leader out there. Jake, who's going to take over this defense as from the leader standpoint now that Teo's gone?
This defense has got to run through Perryman. There's no question about it. He's the one that brings the energy. He's the one that brings a lot of the physicality that we see out there. And he brings the action. And that's the type of, momentum that you need to see in the collective energy that you need to get behind the defense. In my opinion, like you said, you mentioned Dwight Lowry needs to step up. I still believe Jason Verrett runs that secondary, and he's already stepped into that leadership role for that unit. It's funny, and I gotta bring this up just because it's so coincidental. The timing and as much as I respected the mayor more than anybody, but does anybody remember what the mayor's bold prediction slightly after week 2 was that he said to us before the season kicked off?
No, what'd he say?
It'd be Josh Perry was going to be starting, right?
Josh Perry was going to be starting over Manti Te'o, and it was going to be Denzel Perryman and Josh Perry going to be in there. Now, that's not necessarily the case. Obviously, Jatavius Brown is in there, but Josh Perry's going to get an opportunity for some extra playing time. But I think this is the underlying – this is one of the reasons, Jason, why I tell you that I don't like to do predictions, and I'm a very superstitious individual whenever it comes to football. I have to put partially some of the blame of Manti Te'o's injury on the mayor. He almost correctly called it for the fact that, Te'o being replaced, not necessarily calling by who, but the fact that Te'o is out week 3 for the rest of the season, and now there's going to be somebody else in that middle linebacker spot that the mayor was almost 100% in calling the timing. So
yeah.
I can't say thanks, but I guess good prediction.
Yeah.
I don't know how to really relate that, but thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Trav. Hey, real quick, Josh has to go. Josh, thanks for being here as long as you were. I know that you have
his mom's calling. He's got to get out of here. It's dinner time.
Thanks, Josh. We look forward to, if not next Sunday, we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Gentlemen, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, Josh.
Till next week, guys.
All right, man. Now, I maybe I need to kind of be a little bit more clear. I still think that Perryman should be the one that makes the calls. I think Verrett is the best player in our secondary. But my thoughts on Lowry is he's a veteran. He's been in the league for a long time. He needs to be that calming presence on the defense. He needs to be the guy that kind of brings everybody together. Maybe when we're still not working, Trav. I'm sorry, man. As soon as Josh went, Trav tried to call back in, and it won't let me bring his call in without cutting you guys off. So sorry, Trav. We just tried again. But he needs to be that calming presence. He needs to be the guy that settles the defense down when we're giving up those big drives. Because it seems like the 2 games that we've lost, we're not able to stop the momentum. Once the offense on the other team gets the momentum, we are not able to stop it. And that's my thought is Dwight Lowry needs to bring that veteran presence in there and just say, hey, guys, we're going to be okay. This is what we need to start doing. That type of thing. I don't think that he should be calling the plays, and I do think that Verrett is the best player in our secondary. Maybe I'm looking for him to step up a little bit more. That's all. What do you think, Justin?
Well, I mean, going forward, I mean, it's tough because I just heard something. I think it was yesterday. Eric Weddle's rated one of the top safeties in the league according to, I guess, Pro Football something rather. They rate plays, each play individually. Anyway, leadership, all that good stuff. And it sucks to say that. And I wasn't. I liked Eric Weddle a lot. I didn't think he would be a huge. Obviously, as a leader, huge loss, but difference maker, I don't know. I think he just had lost a step the last couple of years. Yeah. But that being said, I don't have a lot of faith in Dwight Lowery either because I haven't really seen any. Have you seen any big plays from Dwight Lowry this year?
That's why I say I need him to step up. I haven't seen anything from him.
Sure, exactly. And I get what you're saying. You want a guy back there that's been in this league, and I get that. I totally understand what you're saying. I just don't know if I can agree with the fact that I want him making calls.
No, I don't want him making calls. I want him kind of rallying, being the voice of reason, maybe, that type of thing.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm not disregarding that fact. I'm just saying, I would rather have Perriman there learning on the fly, maybe from Te'o in the linebacker room, just coaching him up a little bit because he brings intensity and he brings a fire like you see in what you used to see in, like, not gonna even compare him to Junior Seau, but you just see
I see what you're
guy
talking about, though,
exploding off the ball and getting to the ball carrier with some enthusiasm. So in that aspect, yes, I think Perriman's probably the better choice.
I agree, Jake. Do you think we need to see at least a little bit more out of Lowry, or are we getting what we're going to get from him?
You know me. I have been very questionable of the Lowry signing for some time now, and was not my expectation before the season started that he was ultimately going to be the starting safety. I thought that there was actually going to be another move in play, and that he was there for veteran depth. Because how many years has Lowry been in the league now?
50.
Oh boy, yeah, it's been in
probably like 8.
He's a veteran.
I'd say 8.
I mean, a good chunk of time, but I still think we can say that he's been labeled a journeyman for teams during his pro career.
Yeah,
sure.
So again, aside from what he did last year in Indy, which was arguably the best single season that he's had during his career, there hasn't really been anything that I have seen throughout training camp practices or anything from the preseason to the last 3 games that would make me believe that this guy is going to contribute to the defense. And it's funny because I think we can all agree that our defensive secondary is vastly improved with the additions of Casey Hayward and having the triple threat with him and Barrett and Flowers out there. It's definitely a lot better. But when you factor in, like you mentioned, Jason, the expectation for a guy who actually is the longest tenured player in the league that's back there in our secondary, you have certain expectations that come along with that. And regardless whether or not the fact that this is his first year with the team, you do expect a little bit more from him. So, it's unfortunate, and I'm sure it would definitely help out if we would get a chance to see more from him, but I can't say that there is anything that points to any of that happening this season with him.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm just hoping that you're not. I'm hoping. This is kind of me saying this is what I think we need to do. This is what the defense needs to do. First of all, we do have a research department now. His name is SoCal Trav, and he let us know that Dwight Lowry has been in the league 9 years. So thank you so much. We finally got that. We finally got that research department. Requested has joined us in the chat room. So we want to.
Thanks for joining, guys, being part of the conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And like I said earlier, we are sorry we missed last week, but it is good to be back. We talked about who needs to step up leadership-wise on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball, I think that we didn't get a chance to talk about this. I think the signing of Dexter McCluster was awesome. I thought that he is a good replacement for Danny Woodhead. Is he as good as him? Of course not. But I think that if you're looking for somebody to do the same types of things that he does, he's played for Ken Wisenhunt, so he has general knowledge of the offense, so he'll be able to learn a little bit more. I think towards the end of the year, he's going to really be a difference maker on that offense. I'm actually excited that there's some moves that seem pretty obvious, and for whatever reason, us from the outside, we don't know why they make them or don't make them. This one seemed obvious, and it's one that worked out good for us. Justin, what are your thoughts on McCluster?
Well, I love the signing and the pickup because I'm sure there were other teams looking at him. His speed is unmatched. When we look at guys that are free agents like Spiller and Hillman, you're not going to get what you had with Woodhead between the tackles because he just was so shifty and he hid behind backers and he'd burst out. But McCluster is not Woodhead. We know that. He's not going to be Danny Woodhead. Now, what McCluster excels in over Danny Woodhead is those out routes,
yes.
The swing patterns. He will get to the edge
he's
faster.
He's quicker. He's quicker.
Exactly.
Than Woodhead.
He's got a burst way better than Woodhead has. Woodhead's instincts, I would put right there. So when you're doing this is like Madden stuff, your ratings and stuff, but they're similar, but they're not. You're getting a different player, McCluster. You're not seeing. Once McCluster gets involved in this offense more, as he knows the system already with being with Ken Whisenant last year, I think McCluster has an opportunity to have a huge role, and especially in the passing game as a slot receiver to take the load off the wide receivers because we are depleted there as well.
Jake, the McCluster signing, we didn't get a chance to talk about it after it happened. What were your thoughts on it when it happened, and what are your thoughts on it after we've seen him play one game?
My first thought on it was I really felt for Justin for his fantasy team.
I was pretty upset, my friend.
Yes. Did you already replace Woodhead with McCluster on your roster?
I do have McCluster. I did not start him last week, but it's ever evolving in the PPR league that we that we live in. So I picked up Chris Thompson, if you want to know from the Redskins.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
It's hard to really add on to anything that Justin said about Dexter McCluster because everything he said is absolutely right. In the comparison of the Danny Woodhead model, there is no other Danny Woodhead that's in the league. But as far as finding a serviceable replacement to do the things that Woodhead did in this offense, McCluster is every bit of that. And for the fact that he's got the familiarity in Ken Whisenhunt's offense only brings more of a benefit. And I think ultimately one thing is a big X factor that is a difference where McCluster actually has the edge up is that now you have somebody else who's a serviceable return man that could actually bring back those old type memories of Darren Sproles returning the kickoffs. So I think that's one advantage. I think that he kind of gives a little bit more flexibility when it comes to our kickoff returns and deciding who it is that's going to be returning the rock, hopefully to the house.
Yeah, I agree actually, and that's a good point you brought up is the kickoff return. I've never been a fan of Mager being back there. Every time the ball gets kicked to him, I just say, down it, man. Do not bring it out. Do not bring it out.
You can't get interceptions back there, Jace.
Yeah, I know. He's getting his first one this weekend. I'm telling you, he's getting his first one this weekend. Something that SoCal Trav brought up in the chat room. It's scrolled past now, so I can't read it verbatim, but I'm gonna give you the gist of it. He says he's already saying that next year in the draft, the Chargers need to start looking for drafting a quarterback. He thinks that Rivers' skills are diminishing, and this is the time we need to start looking for a quarterback. I'm going to address that one first. I think that's ridiculous. I think that Phillip Rivers did have a bad game, but I think overall, I think that we got at least 3 or 4 more years that we could get out of him if he wanted to play. To make it a priority to draft a quarterback next year just seems absolutely ridiculous to me and a little bit premature maybe. I'm trying to find the right word. Justin, reactions to that at all?
Well, to a backup quarterback, drafting one?
Starting? No, he's talking about replacing Rivers.
Oh, well, I'm never going to replace Rivers in my own mind. I'm not going to do that. I just think one thing Phillip Rivers has for me now, and I'm a homer, and I'm a Phillip Rivers lover, quote unquote. I just love his moxie. I love the way he just does his job. He gets the ball out quick. He makes good reads. You can't replace a guy like that. And no, I don't see that happening.
What do you think, Jake? Time to draft another quarterback? Is Rivers done?
I understand where SoCal is coming from, just from the standpoint of saying, hey, is it that time that you finally send Rivers off and start developing his replacement and, looking toward the future and just being that total, preemptive, forward-thinking type of thought process. But at the same time, it's just, you could have these guys that come in the league with all the physical capabilities in the world, but
the intangibles that goes into the quarterback situation, there's some things that you really just can't teach. Yeah. And Phillip Rivers has all those. I think we could all agree that Jay Cutler has more physical capabilities as a quarterback than Phillip Rivers does.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to tell me 10 times out of 100 times even about who I'd want for my quarterback, it's Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
100 times out of 100.
Exactly.
And it's because of the fact that he is a leader of men. He knows how to motivate people. He is a great teacher for anybody who is just around him, whether it doesn't matter what position it is that we're talking about offensively. And that is really just a hard thing to just sit back and just say, you know what, this time is done. We need to replace it, especially when you can see quarterbacks like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady playing into their 39th and 40th years, even doing the same type of dink and dunk
and
short
Rivers is
type
34,
pass.
right? 34, I believe.
He's only 34, and to be honest, he's a young 34 because he's only played.
Yeah.
He
was 2 years. He sat out 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's only really played 8 of those seasons that he's been in the league.
Yeah.
So I mean, and to be honest, it's been a long time since we had seen Phillip Rivers chuck the ball downfield, and I got to be honest, I love what I have seen in the last 2 weeks with Travis Benjamin going deep and being able to catch those balls. It's normally just been 5 yards here, 5 yards here, get the run game going, protect Phillip, and much more of a conservative type offense. And I love what I've seen from it.
No, sorry to interrupt. Now, we do see, when Phillip throws that deep ball, that they do wait on the ball, but it's there, so the receiver makes a play. It's usually always the receivers coming back to the ball a tad bit on Phillip Rivers football, but you can't help but love the way he gets the ball out and he makes the right read every time, whether it's short or long. Other quarterbacks in the league will hit guys in stride. Phillip is just not one of those guys. He's never done that.
Right. And another thing that I really like about him is when the pressure's on him, he's usually really good. Last week he stumbled a little bit, but he's really good at throwing the ball way earlier than than most people could do, and getting it to drop in right where the receiver is going to be, and he's really, really good at that. Hal loves the Phillip Rivers talk. Of course, he said, "You mean to tell me if there was a great quarterback available in the draft, you would pass him up, not to replace him, but to get ready for his retirement?" That's interesting, and I got 2 parts on that. My first part is, if for some reason we're drafting really high again, I would pass him up. I would try and draft somebody who's gonna more help us win now, because I still think that we need to try and win with Rivers as our quarterback. However, kind of like what the Chargers did when we got to the second round and Breeze was still available, if something like that came up, I wouldn't draft him to take over for Rivers right now, but I wouldn't mind drafting a guy in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round that I thought has a chance of starting in 3 or 4 years to the team. I wouldn't pass that up. Justin, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it just depends on what you need next year. I'm not, you can't put anything, you can't go out there and draft a quarterback in the 1st round unless, God forbid we're 4-12 again. I don't know what I'd do. I'm flipping hair out, but you can't. You just you got to go with what you need. And I think Tom Telesco is a guy, but he wants to add depth, and he wants to add what the team. I know he wants to draft. They say the best player available, but I don't always believe that. I believe that they're going to get players in here that want to play football, and you don't need to draft a quarterback next year. You just don't.
Also, they look for weak ACLs and weak Achilles tendons.
Yeah,
that's another thing we look for.
If you have weak knees and spleens and everything else, you're good.
Jake, you think second through 4th round? I know it's so early in the season. I don't want to talk about next season, but we are talking about this. Would you, if a great quarterback was available in the draft, would you want them to draft him, or would you still want them to draft some positional player that could make an instant impact?
I think that's the one thing that unfortunately Phillip has just lacked around him over the past several years, and that's been with unfortunate, GM moves. I can't say that I necessarily I love the moves that Tom Telesco's made, especially from the defensive side of the ball, as far as getting some talent in here to make a difference. And we've obviously talked about some of the players on tonight's show that have been a direct result of his drafts and people he's brought in, but you really have to think about it that Phillip Rivers, for a good amount of time, especially since the turnover with the GM position and even going all the way back into when Norv Turner was the head coach, that he has lacked the offensive production and weapons around him. Yes. Let's not forget what Denver was able to do last year with a Peyton Manning that literally had no skills left, was on the last drop of gas that he had. But look at who he had around him. He had a top 10 run game. He had a great offensive line, and he had numerous wide receivers and tight ends that he was able to throw the ball to. Oh, and let's not forget, he had the number one defense in the league that was able to, that really won the Super Bowl for that game for him. So again, when you can see that type of a model, I mean, again, you go back to quarterbacks that aren't the superstar types as a Trent Dilfer or a Brad Johnson, guys who won their Super Bowls off of the backs of defenses. You can look at that and say that that type of system works. If you have something like that, you can make it work. So if you can keep Phillip Rivers upright, if you can generate a good run game behind him with Melvin Gordon, if you can get some wide receivers and weapons around him that can actually, unfortunately, in our case, stay healthy, and you can generate a good defense, these type of things can work, and Phillip Rivers can end up servicing this offense and making it move forward for the next couple of years. Again, we talked about all the intangibles that he brings in leadership-wise. I can't say that I'm against, drafting a quarterback as far as a developmental type that's going to sit on the bench for 2 to 3 years. But gosh, when you just look around what the AFC West has as far as how much we have to compete with as much talent as they have on their roster, you really have to build this team up in other areas. We're fortunate enough to have Phillip Rivers, and we have to ride out the value that we have for him for his last couple of years that we have him on this contract.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. And before we go, couple last thoughts. I know we're going to be covering the Saints game pregame on Sunday, so I want to invite everybody to come aboard between 9 and 10. We're going to be talking about Drew Brees, and I think we'll talk about during the pregame show whether or not we're having some static issues, whether or not the Chargers should be actually, the Charger fans should be cheering Brees, or if the Chargers should be booing Brees. That'll be interesting to talk there. But starting safeties, we're going to go back to that. Now that it dies out, we've kind of we were McCoy fans, but maybe we haven't quite seen what we want to out of him. Who are your starting safeties? I know they do a lot of rotating in, but when I say the starting safeties, these are the guys that are going to play most of the game in the base. Dwight Lowry, of course, I mean, whether we've liked what we've seen or not, he's got to be one of the starters. I almost say the other starter's got to be Phillips right now, and bring in McCoy on specific plays. But who do you guys want to see starting at safety right now until it dies back, Justin?
I think you have to start Adrian Phillips, but it's a toss up right now. These guys flashed in preseason, and we're getting the raw end here. We don't know. They just got to keep rotating. It's McCoy and Phillips, so we'll see how that pans out. If the secondary can go this week and everybody's healthy, knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood. God, we can't afford any more injuries. I think he'll be okay, and we'll be fine on the back end. Because the Saints are banged up too. This is two teams that are just really decimated by injury.
Jake, who would you start at safety if you had the choice?
I mean, if I had a choice, it's really tough to make an honest choice right now, considering the lack of display of action that we've got from these guys when they've gotten in the starting roles. I mean, even some bad flashes in the preseason from both Adrian Phillips. I mean, I think we can all agree that we know that Darrell Stuckey is not most of his talent comes out on special teams, and it's not serviceable at the safety position really as far as making an impact goes. So, and from what we read from the preseason, that Adrian Phillips was having a terrific one through the first couple of weeks. I haven't seen anything to put any truth behind that, and unfortunately, I just haven't. And then in Dexter McCoy, you've got a CFL standout who's experiencing his first NFL action. I mean, it's kind of just like pick your poison. You have to rotate. You have to figure out which one is going to be able to make the most of the reps that he's given out there.
And I know this isn't preseason. I know this isn't an opportunity to shine, but in reality, everybody has an equal opportunity to win, this starting job for the next couple of weeks until Jaleel Adai is back. But hopefully you can find somebody with some consistency. But we know the way that Pagano works with his rotations, that he works with his defense. So it's probably a good bet that we're going to see a good mixture of all three of these guys back there at some point or another.
Hayward or Flowers? Assuming Flowers gets through the concussion protocol, who do you start? I actually like the rotation that they're doing right now. Whatever they're already doing, it looks like Flowers and Verrett are starting, but Hayward's getting a lot of time in there. I'm fine with the way it's been. I know it wasn't perfect last week, but I'm pretty happy with the rotation they got. But Justin, Hayward or Flowers, who starts?
Well, I mean, you love what Hayward's doing right now. He's making plays on the ball, and they're great plays. But I agree with you. I think the rotation's been fine. Let's just keep everybody healthy. That's the main thing. I think Hayward is a great. He's a nickel in this system. He seems like the nickel guy, but he could easily be the number 2. So, right. We'll keep that rotation going, and I think it should be solid for the rest of the season. Knock on wood again.
Jake, Hayward or Flowers?
Again, I still say if Flowers is healthy, that you keep it at the rotation, and it is. I think we're going to come to find out toward the end of the season that Casey Hayward was one of the most underrated free agent signings of this season. And, I'm not speaking too early just as far as what he's done the last couple of weeks. He just really has added just another dimension to that three-headed monster at the cornerback position for us. And the best thing about him is that he is versatile. So if for some reason that Brandon Flowers is not able to go this Sunday because of the concussion protocol, like Justin said, he is able to be a number 2 cornerback on the outside. It's going to change some things up defensively. We definitely don't want to see that. But, as far as the rotation he's been such a great addition to this team. And to be that type of ball hawking nickel corner above all things. I mean, that's Chris Davis-like in comparison to their nickel corner on the Denver Broncos. That's the type of things that you want to see from your defensive secondary, and that's the type of impact that he's made. So I definitely like the rotation it is right now. I like Flowers as a veteran presence, but don't be surprised if after a certain period of time, if you see Casey Hayward getting into that number 2 position down the line.
Remember how upset we were when they let Patrick Robinson go because we liked how well he played last year? And
wow.
Boy, what and that seems to have worked out pretty well for. Not that Patrick Robinson wasn't good because he was, but what an upgrade.
Sure. Yeah, it's been nice.
Last thing, we're going to leave it with Hal. He's got the last thing that we're going to cover here, and he's made a statement in the chat room. If Bosa doesn't start by week 6, that was a wasted draft pick for a team that needs a stadium deal. Interesting take, and one of the things that you have to agree with now is when the Chargers were negotiating with him, they said, now if you sign the contract now, you've already affected how you're going to be able to play. That we're not going to be able to get a full season out of you. And whether or not the injury was there or not, they were right. We definitely haven't got a full season out of him. But I don't want to say it's a wasted draft pick, because who knows, maybe he comes in and he still gets you 10 sacks. But I think it's a little bit of a strong statement. But do you agree or disagree, Justin? If Bosa doesn't start by week 6, that was a wasted draft pick for a team that needs a stadium deal.
Well, neither nor. I mean, he's going to start this week. We already covered. I mean, we touched on that, but I think it's not wasted, even if it was, the 6th week. I understand everybody's concern, but this is how negotiations go sometimes. This was a little weird and quirky, and finally got in there. Then he got injured. He's Joey Bosa, man. You watch highlights, and you can only hope to dream that he's going to do similar things in the NFL. So if he does, he can help this defense. And luckily, knock on wood, our line has been intact all year. And then the addition of Karan Reed, it's been a good rotation. I haven't seen much of, I haven't seen many plays out of Phylon as much as I'd like to see.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see Joey Bosa come in. And I think if he does play this week, it's 15 to 20 snaps, and just knock that tackle off his ass and get to the quarterback and cause damage. If you're going to be in the game, I don't care if you're injured or not. Just get to the quarterback. That's all. Disrupt the play.
Yeah, be a game changer. Jake, if Bosa doesn't start by week 6, that was a wasted draft pick for a team that needs a stadium deal. Agree with that or no?
I don't agree with it, because I think when you're talking about, the potential for a first-round pick, given the circumstances in which he came in here, and then you try to relate it to, the team for a stadium-ish, that needs a stadium, I don't think one relates directly to another, because the last 3 weeks, the Chargers could conceivably be 3-0, and none of that has to deal with Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
None of it whatsoever, because the Chargers had opportunities to be 3-0, and they blew chances. They played sloppy, and that was not because of Joey Bosa's lack of being out there on that field. I can tell you that right now. They had every opportunity to be 3-0. What's going to get this San Diego a new stadium is ultimately wins. That's what's ultimately going to translate into a new stadium. As far as Joey Bosa goes, I don't believe that if he's not back by week 6 that it's a wasted season, because he is going to be a difference maker to a defense when he arrives, no matter what point in time that is. Exactly. And as far as the coaches go, us waiting this long for him to come out there and waiting for him to be healthy, and maybe a blessing in disguise, because honestly, if for some reason that he is not able to play on Sunday, I don't believe that we need him to beat the Saints. I truly don't. I think that is a game that the Chargers can win without him. Who do you have the next 2 weeks after that? You've got Oakland, you've got Denver.
Division
Those
games.
are two teams that you absolutely need Joey Bosa for.
Yes.
So if it means holding Joey Bosa out for another week for the reasons for having him in there in those games, then I'm all for that.
The problem is if you go 1-3, that's not a fun time.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right. So. You're absolutely right. But I definitely think that this game on Sunday is not going to be determined whether or not Joey Bosa is on the field. But I don't see it as a wasted season for somebody like Joey Bosa coming in that late. Certain circumstances unfortunately just didn't work out on top of a hamstring injury. That's never fun. But if it meant having Joey Bosa come back earlier than he should, and then injuring it even later to where he's physically not able to be out there for the entire season, then that's just the way it goes. But if the coaching staff is taking the proper safety precautions in order to have him out there to service him for the remainder of the season as much as they possibly can, then how can you argue something like that?
I agree, and I'll tell you what, Hal in the chat room says he bets $100 that he doesn't play. And if you're listening earlier, Hal, I was the only one in here who said he's not playing this week. Everybody else thinks he's going to play. I think they're going to hold him out one more week. And after hearing what Jake just now said, it makes a lot more sense to hold him out for one more week for the Raiders and the Broncos. That's going to wrap it up for us this week. We look forward to. First of all, we want to thank everybody that was in the chat room that contributed in the chat room. We look forward to talking to each one of you guys during the pregame show Sunday morning from 9 to 10, and then of course we all get to watch a victory over the Saints. We'll be talking about what the Chargers need to do to beat the Saints.
Must win. It really is. Considering it's a must-win. Game. You cannot drop to 1-3 for the first 4 games of the season.
And 3 out of the next 4 division games.
It's certainly an important win. You know me; I'm not ready to say must-win yet.
It definitely is.
It's a must-win.
It's a must-win game. No, I mean, you dropped the dude. You're gonna go play the Broncos twice in 4 weeks. I mean, come on. I mean, it's a must-win game. You're gonna fall in a hole. We did this last year.
Yeah, we sure did.
They were all must-win games.
They lost all those. They lost all those must-win games last year. So we'll see.
They all did. Yep, that was good.
We'll see what happens. Justin, of course, thanks for being here and being part of it. And
sure.
And it was a bummer that we missed last week, but it's nice to be back. Look forward to talking to you again on Sunday, of course, doing the Sunday pregame show. Jake, thank you so much for fighting like you do every single week, fighting through our technical difficulties. It is a battle, but it's a
blame it on the injuries, baby.
Absolutely.
Got a hammy.
Yeah. My computer tore its Achilles tendon, and man, it was
there. You
tough.
Go.
It was a tough recovery. For those of you out here listening, you need to follow Jake at Jake T Hefner on Twitter. He's a great follow. Really good stuff. He banters back and forth with fans all week long. You can also go to boltbeat.com, see articles that he's written, along with all the other crew over at boltbeat.com. They have a lot of really good stuff over there. Anything coming up in particular, or just a lot of good, neat stuff over there, Jake?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we just haven't had much positive things to write about, unfortunately, over the last week or so. It's kind of just been a flip-flop of, every other week. But it's all going to just be relative to how the season goes. So plenty of storylines that are going to come up here in the last 13 weeks of the season, 14 weeks of the season. But we'll have plenty to talk about, that's for sure.
There always is. And so you can check them out at boltbeat.com. Follow them at Jake T. Hefner. You can follow Justin at Justin_SDSG. SDSJ, excuse me. You can follow me at Jason_SDSJ. Our actual podcast Twitter is, go ahead, Justin.
It's, hold on. We just changed it. So
right.
San Diego Sports Junkies SD. So
yes, Sports Junkies.
Sports Junkies
SD.
Sorry, I always confuse the two.
And you know what? I put you on the spot there, too. The thing is, I couldn't think of what it was, so I threw it at you and tried to...
It's all right. The most professional.
Threw you under the bus.
Yes. There you
go. Thanks a lot. Sorry we missed last week. Thanks a lot for everybody who joined us in the chat room. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. If not Sunday, we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday every week. We are sending a Sports Junkies, a show for the fans.
By the fans.
And we are out. Thanks a lot, guys.
Later, fellas.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.